right, let me share my screen. And I'm going to use the PowerPoint Live feature, which I think it's either rolled out to GCC or it's coming really soon to GCC. Hey, Roxy. Roxy and her
Like she's
cat.
about to get eaten.
Roxy always has the funniest backgrounds.
Love it.
All right. Are y'all seeing the Texas Teams community slide?
Yes, sir.
Okay, excellent. So let me jump right in here. I love this video, so we'll just play this video and kind of talk about if there's anybody new here, kind of what our theme is for this this year.
No audio on the video, Michael.
Oh, no audio. That's so disappointing. I'm so sorry.
I mean, it's not like we don't know what it says.
Okay, here we go. There's a interesting. Let me.
I heard the audio. I heard the audio.
Yeah, so did I.
Really?
No roads? We don't need roads. Yeah.
the audio.
Maybe it's just me.
There's a new interface, and the sharing content screen is different now. It's updated. It's actually a lot better. I really do like it. But the way that it used to pop up down toward the bottom, and then you had the little switch that said include computer sound, it's in a different spot. So it's interesting. This is what's called PowerPoint Live View. Now, when y'all are seeing this, let me turn my video back on. Are you seeing the PowerPoint, and are you seeing me and my video next to the PowerPoint, or what are y'all seeing?
Seeing the PowerPoint below. Your picture's up.
Your picture's a little bit
towards the
bigger
top.
than everybody else's.
Okay. So there are a lot of new capabilities that are coming to Teams, and some that just released. Let's see, what is today? The 10th. On the 8th, some really cool new features that have just released on the 8th to our GCC customers. And so I'm going to cover just a couple of those today. I'm not going to drain that slide deck, but I'm also going to give you all the link to that slide deck that I talked about last month, where we go over all of the new capabilities that have been released, and then the ones that are coming. So this on the slide right now is our Texas Teams community interest list. This is for people to sign up to be on the mailing. The way that I keep saying this. I need to get Billy to do the integration for me so that it automatically sends you the meeting request. What I do is when you sign up for this, it opens up a Microsoft form. When you fill that out, it puts your name into a spreadsheet. You also have the option to remove yourself from the list. Now, it's not like a distribution list. It's me manually cutting and pasting email addresses, which I'm kind of embarrassed to say, but I don't know. I really got to use that Power Automate feature. The community interest list, you can forward this to other people in your organization that want to get the invite to this. And then that way, I will include them in the invite. Because what I do is I have a recurring meeting, and then I just update it each month and I add people to it. So again, it's a little clunky, but it sort of is as it is, because I'm kind of old school. So that's where you sign up. What we're going to do today, and if you got the update that I sent out a couple of days ago, we're gonna talk about a few things, but then I also just want to have some time for some open discussion. Joy, when she and I were talking a few weeks ago, she said, "Hey, or maybe it was last month. Why don't we have another one of those open discussions where just everybody can just visit about whatever?" That's how we discovered Billy Stevenson, who is now a Microsoft employee, but yeah, so we'll do that. I know, right? I saw that clapping there come through. So Last month, we talked a little bit about hybrid work. And since we spoke last month, I've been doing a lot of reading and research on hybrid work and return to work scenarios. And how do we really use the maximum capabilities of Teams and Office 365 and some of the additional applications like bookings and shifts and Power Automate to help us have a more automated return to work process, as well as have a safer return to work process for those who are going back into the physical buildings. Then we also talked about, for those who are remote, how do we provide a first-class experience for our remote attendees? And what I really got into working with some of our agencies is around the creating Teams rooms where we use cameras, microphones. Now, these can be small huddle rooms or these can be big conference rooms, and that we have the certified devices and certified Teams vendors who have all this hardware that integrates natively. Now, you don't have to buy Teams native hardware if you already have like a Cisco WebEx room or a Zoom room. If you bought some of the Zoom hardware, then you can also integrate that into Teams. And you can do that if you have like a Cisco WebEx room by paying Cisco for their connector. Or if you're trying to move away from using Cisco WebEx, then what you can do is you can use, there are third-party companies that can integrate your, what we at this point would call legacy hardware, because you're no longer using the WebEx licenses, and you can integrate that and make it an endpoint in Teams. And so got a lot of information about that. And then there's also been some really good research on just trends, what employees are looking for. So if y'all are in HR or in the people management side of things and you're interested, then shoot me a note here. What I'm looking at putting together is an event with Joy where we actually focus on hybrid and return to work as a topic. And this would be more for kind of your decision makers in human resources, in learning and development, in technology, and how do we work together to give the best experience for those employees who do come back and those who are going to be remote. Because it's really, I worked remotely for about, I've worked remotely for about 25 years. And when you're the person on the other end of the conference call and nobody can hear you and you can't seem to kind of get your voice heard, or you can't get your opinion, or you just kind of feel like a second-class citizen in a meeting, that can be pretty discriminatory towards your remote employees, and we want to avoid that, or even a perception of that. So if you're interested in that, then I would love for you to fill out this remote working poll. And what we're trying to do here is take some information on who's going back. And I am not going to use this for any public information. This is more just kind of capturing information about who's going back. Are you already back? Are you thinking about going back? Are you never going to go back? Things like that. Okay, so that's this remote working poll. And then what I'd love to do is share a few new pieces of content that I've come across in, one of them was literally a few minutes ago. And then some of it was what I shared last time. Before I do that, are there any questions or anything else y'all want to talk about that we want to make sure and include before we get to the open discussion part? Anybody at all?
I hate to be disruptive. This is Roxy.
Not at all. Hey, Roxy.
I don't see chat. It's not visible.
Well, it's turned on in the meeting. So let me ask: Does anybody else see the chat?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so what I'd recommend, Roxy, every once in a while, it's software, it's not perfect. I'll join a meeting and I can't see the chat, and what I do is I leave and I come back in, and then I can see the chat. I know that stinks.
Okey-dokey. I'll
Or you
try
might
that.
even quit Teams. Like you have to right click on the icon and say quit, and then restart it, and then come back in. Because sometimes when you get an update, it just doesn't quite take, or it doesn't restart your client correctly, and then you'll get it.
Thanks a bunch.
I see all y'all in the chat. Thank you. All right, awesome. So several months ago, I shared with y'all some Teams meetings and GCC guidance on best practices. And this was actually my teammates made this series of videos, and it was 1-hour sessions. And what we've done is we went back and made a whole nother set because there's so many new features in Teams. The first version of the meeting we did was probably 3 months ago, and there's so many new features. We did it again the last 3 or so weeks. And so if you go to don't go to this Texas Teams resources, go over here to this aka.ms/Teams meetings for government, and I'm going to copy this. And can I copy that? Here we go. Copy link, and I'll put it in the chat. And this is a whole series of videos that one will be on accessibility, one will be on using mobile, Teams Mobile, one will be on using best practices for using Teams for large events, things like that. And so each one, there's a whole table of contents. And I think there's an intro video. One of my teammates is really good at doing video editing, so he kind of put some nice trailers and footers and all those kinds of things on it. And so it's not just 11 sessions anymore. It's probably more like 22 sessions. So this is great, and it's topic specific. Now they're a little bit long. They're not little short snackable videos. These are more like 30-minute sessions, things like that, or as much as an hour-long session. So really great content there. I wouldn't put it into the training category. I don't know that I would put these on your training portal, but it's certainly a possibility. They're well done. The next thing, and this I just found out about today. So by a show of hands, by doing the raise your hand feature, how many of you ever attended a big Microsoft event in the last year that has been held virtually, like the one we just had Microsoft Build? We had Microsoft Ignite before that. We had Microsoft Inspire back in, I think Inspire was in the fall, or maybe that was one in the spring. But how many of you have attended a big Microsoft event like that? Okay, I see Robin Brady. I see some thumbs up going. If you've ever been to a big Microsoft event, you will see things that you can't do in Teams. And what I mean by that is you'll see two people on the screen with content, with someone in the upper right-hand corner providing ASL, and you'll have transcription at the bottom, which you can do, but the user interface, and they might be playing some music, and they have this cool background, and and like all of this kind of really looked like it was produced by a professional agency or something, and the whole experience. They're actually using Teams, but they're using some production software. A lot of them use OBS, which is it's an open source video platform that you can use, because what Teams is, it's video streams, it's audio streams, it's sharing streams. And OBS Studio allows you to take those different streams and arrange them on the screen in different places. And it's an art. And Microsoft has teams of people that do that. And then if you have like a big event, and I'm talking like, thousands of people, where you're really needing a highly produced event, then reach out to me and we can actually produce. And I mean, I'm talking like, looks like the Oscars, quality is of event. We've done some of those for customers, and then we also produce these big events internally for Microsoft, these big Microsoft events, and we have we have a sound stage where you have the newscasters in between the different sessions and all of this kind of content. Well, there is a guide book on how to do that. And so when this says Teams for live events, what I'm not talking about is live events. And I know this is a confusing title. So in Teams, you have a Teams meeting. We have traditionally, we have Teams meetings and live events. Live events are the ones where it's one-to-many. It's more like a town hall. The people that are your producers and your presenters are speaking. No one else can come off mute. They can't talk back, but there's a moderated Q&A. So that was what was called a live event. Now we now have this thing called webinars, which is a Teams meeting with registration pages and some additional capabilities. And when I'm talking about live events here, what I'm talking about is big events, big, highly produced events. So this video, if you just go to this YouTube link, and I'll send all these links out after in my follow-up email, but I'll also post it right here. This is a training on how you do these kind of cool big events and different ways you can do things, and give you examples of other customers we've done this for using Teams and using the software you already own. And again, OBS Studio is free, and it's really not that hard to do. Now, I haven't done it, but I have multiple coworkers who have done it. And it's not rocket surgery, but it takes practice. There is also a virtual event playbook. Oh, and I didn't. This actually is not the right URL. Let me fix this real quick.
I put the right URL in chat for everyone, Michael. It's the AKA one.
Yeah, thank you. Who was that said that? Oh, thanks, Greg. Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Greg. Yeah, it's actually, and I'll fix it. It's https://aka.ms/virtual event playbook, and I'll fix that. Thanks, Greg. I just scanned through this video. I literally learned about it about 3 hours ago, and it's really nice, and it really shows you what's possible using Teams. And again, if you have something that's really big and you need some help with it, then let me know. Now, if it's something like a commissioner's meeting where it's super important, but it's not like a big, highly produced event, we can help you with that too. In fact, I was just on the line with Jessie Hogg with the Ethics Commission, and she has a commissioner's meeting, and so we were helping her with that and just kind of thinking through some different strategies and ways to use Teams. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about these big events. So either way, we can help. All right, the next thing I want to share with y'all. Any questions about that before I move on? Okay. Let me just see here. Yeah, was that a question? I don't think so. Okay. Okay. This is a slide deck I talked about last time, but I want to reiterate it, and I'm probably going to talk about this every time, just for as new people come in, or if you just haven't heard about it, or you've lost a link or something. This is a slide deck that members of my team are putting together and will continue to update. And it is a slide deck that has the features that are already released in GCC. So GCC, Government Community Cloud, which is the government version of Office 365. Then there's the commercial cloud. Now, some of our agencies their Office 365 is in the commercial cloud, the commercial tenant. Most, though, are in GCC, and City of Austin is in GCC. Now, a lot of our education customers, we do have a lot of education on here. They're in an education Office 365 tenant, which is a little bit different also. This is specific to GCC. There's so many assets that are created by Microsoft that are commercial specific that our goal was to make something just for us in GCC. And if you go to aka.ms/Teams feature guide _GCC, then you will find the slide deck. And we update it about every 2 weeks. And it has not only, in fact, I've got it open right here. I'm going to pull this onto the screen here. Give me just 1 second. Okay. Now, when you open it, let me know if y'all are seeing my screen. It should see a PowerPoint. Y'all seeing that, or it's a web page?
Yep, looks good, Michael.
Okay, great. Thank you. So this is the guide that I was talking about. When you first open it up, it's going to open in a browser. If you click the download button, then it will actually download the slide deck for you. And I don't remember, I'll click it real quick here and see what happens. It downloads it as a PDF. And so, and what it has in here is it not only has the information about what's coming and kind of shows you some different screen captures, and it tells you when it was released. We're going to be sorting this out by calendar. So things that were released earlier will be at the top, the first slides, and then things that are released a little bit later will be in the latter slides. And so let me find one that's a good example here. Okay. Oh, actually, these are all been released, so that's why I don't see the roadmap. So let me talk about this first. Okay. Let me find a cool one here. Actually, it's right down here. I was actually talking to Jesse about this just a little while ago. But if you didn't know, you can now have up to 1,000 participants in a meeting. And so we'll talk about this one. So we now have, when you have a Teams meeting, you can, instead of just having 300 people in the meeting, you can go up to 1,000 people in a meeting just like this, where there's chat, where people can come off mute, where they can turn on their camera. Now you have the ability, when you schedule these meetings, very granular controls now. So you can say only presenters can come off mute, so everybody else is hard muted. You have the ability to say that people cannot cannot turn on their video. You can turn off the chat if you want to. And so there's a lot of additional granularity when you set up meetings, and that's important when you have 1,000 people in a call. This MC right here, this stands for Message Center. So the Message Center is for your Office 365 administrators, and this is a place when you open up the Message Center, it looks like this, and the Message Center has all of these posts in it about what's coming and what are the different capabilities. So this one right here, remove preview tag from large gallery. So the large gallery view was in preview before, and so now it's been released. And so this is, and so the Message Center gives additional information about this, gives a roadmap ID. If there's any PowerShell scripts that you have to do to turn it on, things like that are in the Message Center. So that's when you see this MC up here, that's what that is. If you click the link and you are not an Office 365 administrator, or you haven't been granted access to the Message Center, then you won't be able to get there. It'll say you don't have permission to that. So that's what that is. But it gives a lot of information about what's coming. And then if we scroll down, and there's been a lot of releases, so let me just scroll way down and we'll just wait for the screen to catch up. These are, let's see, so this is pending rollout. Let me find one here. Okay. All right, so here's one. This network planner improvement. So here's the Message Center post, and here's the roadmap. So if you click this roadmap, then it's going to take you to the team's roadmap page that is specific to this particular feature, where there might be some additional information. Oftentimes we've already included all the information. And so this one is in the process of rolling out. And you'll see here the tag is GCC, and then all this other stuff is kind of everybody else. And it's going to be in Teams, it's going to be in the desktop version, the mobile version, and the web version, and it's going to be released May calendar year 2021. Now, you may say to yourself, well, it is May already, or May, I'm sorry, it's June already. Sometimes things slip a little bit. And so if that's the case, then pending rollout late May through early June. So we're off sometimes by a little bit. Sometimes things release a little bit early. Sometimes they release a little bit late. Sometimes we start to roll it out and we find a big bug, and we stop rolling it out and we go back to a clean version that works completely. So that's this slide deck. There's a lot. I really do feel for my partners in IT who have to support all these things that are coming, and my partners in training who have to train on all this stuff that's coming. There's so many capabilities that we need to enable remote work and really efficient work. And so it's sort of a catch-22. We need all these features, but it's really hard to roll out all these features at the same time. And so I get both sides of the equation. But this is a great place to learn about that. So please share this with your IT people, and then also it's a great thing for y'all to use as a resource to know what's coming. Okay. And then the last thing I want to share with y'all, no, actually, that's it. That was the last thing I wanted to share. And so I would love to just at this point open it up. I know actually I was in the hospital with my son the last time we did this, and that was when Billy came on for the first time. I don't think Billy is able to join us today. I haven't heard him come on yet. So what's going on out there? How's everybody doing? Are there some things y'all have questions about? We can make this a question and answer session, We can talk about Greg Stevens and his amazing training team. Whatever's top of mind for y'all. Yeah, Roxy.
Hello. I am really excited to see that Forms is now available in our Teams meeting. Can you talk a little bit about how that works?
Yeah, thank you. A little bit. I use Forms extensively. Y'all have seen me use Forms to sign up for the community, to take polls, to get your feedback on how the community is doing. But there is an ability to add forms into a meeting so that you can actually take polls during meetings and get feedback during meetings. With the new release of Forms, you actually have the ability to, my brain is just locking, give me 1 second. You actually have the ability to create those forms ahead of time and then share those forms during the meeting. And so let me see here. I don't have that right here in my meeting. Okay, here we go. Let me just share my screen with y'all. And I'll include computer sound. Let me know if y'all are seeing my screen.
We see it.
Yes.
Yes, your desktop.
Okay, great. All right, so this is what I'm seeing right now. And so as I spoke about earlier, when I go to, I can't do, if I click this, it'll stop sharing. So I don't have the ability to show you the new sharing interface. But if I go here and I add an app into my meeting, and this may not be the same interface as you. In fact, let me do this. Let me open up the the page on Forms. And let me open up the full PowerPoint, because then I can search, so you don't have to just watch me scrolling around. What it gives you the ability to do is to, some of you may have used Poly or other Forms tools, Forms tools where you can have a poll during a meeting. Poly is a third-party platform that is a partner and works really well inside of Teams. And so, but what you can do is you can create forms ahead of the meeting, and then you can put them up on the screen during the meeting, and so you can get feedback like, do you feel like you are getting paid too little, just the right amount, or too much? And so that could be a form that you have. And then when people submit the form, then you have some options as to whether you show the results while they're coming in, or you can wait and show the results afterward, or you can make it anonymous, or you can make it so that you can see who voted for what. And then all of that gets stored into Microsoft Forms. And then afterward, you can export that out of the form into a spreadsheet. And so then you can do, just use that data to your heart's content. So that is what Forms is. And let me look here in my PowerPoint deck of that GCC and find the right slide for that. This is not that, so I won't get distracted. Okay, here we go. This stuff is, so many things are coming so fast that it's even being a Microsoft employee, this is what I do all day. It's too much to keep up with. Okay, so Forms and Teams, channel and chat. So in Microsoft Teams, easily set up a Forms tab. Okay, so so this is released to GCC tenants June 7th. So Roxy, you already saw it, so that's fantastic. It's already, you may not see it in your tenant yet. It may roll out tomorrow or later this afternoon, but it has to roll out across all of the tenants nationwide. It doesn't just happen at one time. And so in this case, you can, if you're in a team, then you can add a tab up at the top where you have a form. So that is one use of Forms, is adding it into a particular team or into a channel. And then when you if you create that form, then you can have it post to the channel about it. And so when you do that, what that means is that when you let me show an example of this real quick. Just 1 second. I'm going to open up the demo tenant, and I'll show you all this. So I'm logging in. This is a GCC tenant. And so if I go into, I just went to office.com, and if I go into Teams, and hopefully it's at my demo tenant, we may get there. It doesn't actually have that capability yet.
While you're waiting on that,
Sure.
Michael, wanted to let you know that Jenna wanted to know how to access the PDF of the slide deck for GCC.
Yeah, perfect. So I think it's already in the chat. The URL that you would go to is it's aka.ms/Teams feature guide _GCC. And so if that's already in the chat, if somebody could just post that in the chat again. When you click that, it'll go to a page where it will open up in the browser. That PowerPoint deck will open up. And if in the upper right-hand corner you click download, then it'll download the PDF. And the PDF has all the hyperlinks and all that works. Okay, so let me go. I'll go here because I want to show you all this in just a minute too. Okay, so I'm in a team called Contoso Champions, and I'm in the general channel. And if I click add a tab here, then I'm now able to, at long last, we've been waiting for this for about a year. I can now add a Microsoft form. And if I've already created a form, then I can add an existing form. And here are some different forms that we could put. And this post to the channel about this tab, I'll show you what happens if I click that. So you can create a new form, or you can use a form that you already have. So let's use a form that we already have. Oh, this form doesn't exist. Okay, well, apparently that wasn't a good demo to show. This is it's my buddy's demo tenant. So let's just make a form real quick here. And I'm going to call this the No Roads. Okay. And if you haven't used forms, the really cool thing about forms, and this is part of your Office 365 tenant, if you are logged in on your work PC and you go to office.com, then you will see forms right here. It looks just like this little F, and you can create a form. If you click here, then what it does is it opens up a page, and you'll already be logged in, so it probably won't ask you to log in again, but it might. And then you can create a form, okay? And so what we're showing, now this is, you can create a form, you can get a URL to that form, you can get that the QR code like I do, and I put in my PowerPoint decks for the form. So all of that is right here. What we're showing here, what Roxy was talking about, is now you can put a form right inside of a team. And so I called it No Roads. I can add a choice, a text field, a rating, a date. And so if I go with a choice, then let's see, are you happy today? Okay, and it actually has some artificial intelligence in here. And so it's like, suggestions, yes, no, maybe. And if I click add all, it just drops them in there like that. And then I can create another one. And I could say, let's put a rating in here, and how happy. And I can do 5 levels, I can do 2 levels, I can do up to 10 levels of happiness. I can do stars, I can do numbers. So depending on if you want this to be quantitative or a little bit more subjective. And I can make this a required field or not in my form. And then once I am done, then I can click the preview tab right up here, and it shows me what my form looks like. And I can change the color, I can put a background on it, I can kind of get fancy. This is what it looks like on a computer. If you open this on a mobile device, it is what's called a responsive page, and so it will actually work on a mobile device really well. And then you just click back, and once you're ready, then you can just you can share the form. You can send people this URL if you want to. This is the link that goes to the form. Now, this is a public-facing URL. In other words, you can send this to someone outside your organization. You can email it to them. Here's where you get the QR code. So this is a really powerful capability. And then when you when people fill it out and you click the responses, it'll show the responses. And then if you say open in Excel, it will open up an Excel spreadsheet with all of your all the responses in it. So yeah, great question. Thank you for bringing that to our attention, Roxy. And that's forms inside of Teams. And then you can also now, I think it's been released now, use a form in a meeting. All right, what else do we got? Matt.
Hey everyone, this is my second meeting. So I don't know that I've introduced myself. My name is Matt Zimmerman. I work at the Capital Area Council of Governments Homeland Security Department.
Nice.
So COGS work on tackling regional problems, emergency response coordination for us. And so Teams has been a great help, a great tool. We work with a lot of guest or external partners. So we have a love-hate relationship with Teams. And so I'm having a problem that I kind of wanted to bring to the group and see if anyone's experiencing it or has found a way to solve it. I am trying to add external users to a team with private channels and then add them to one of those private channels. And I got I got everyone into the team fine, but then I couldn't get some of the people into the private channel. And I don't know if it's a federation thing because like every person that I can't get into the private channel had someone from the same organization that I was able to get in the private channel. So I'm not sure what to do with that one. I looked on Microsoft forums. They suggested quitting or like logging out of Teams and seeing if it's a caching thing. No luck with that one. I tried on the web client, no luck with that one. Tried on the mobile client. I was on iOS. People were saying they had success on Android, but no luck with any of those.
Yeah, no, that's a really well framed question, Matt. So thank you. I have seen, so that should work. So you should be able to add guests into Azure Active Directory. And so once you've got a guest account, as long as your tenant administrator has enabled the ability to add guests to your Office 365 and to Teams. So that first has to be turned on. So if anybody is trying this and you're like, well, I can't add guests at all. Well, that's a setting. And a lot of organizations have chosen not to enable guests just over the concern that we may not be quite where we need to be with the permissions that we have set on all of our documents and all of our file repositories. And we don't want to take a chance on somebody sharing something they shouldn't. And so there are a lot of capabilities now to protect for that, but until you kind of get that in place. So if you do have guests enabled, when you want to add guests into a team, there's a couple of different options. One is you can add them into your Azure Active Directory, and you can put in whether they're an Office 365 email address, like another agency, or whether they're like just a Hotmail or a Gmail or something like that, then you can add that. When you've done that, you can add them in to be a member of a team. Now, what Matt is doing is he's creating what's called a private channel, which let's just say you have a team and you have 100 people in the team, but 10 of those people are kind of your leaders group or something like that, or they're on this special super secret project that's still part of that team, but we don't want everybody to see what they're working on. So you create a private channel. So members of a private channel have to be members of the team. You can't have somebody be a member of a private channel that's not a member of the team, but you can have a subset like these 10 people in that private channel. The challenge Matt is having is they're in the team, but I can't add them to the private channel, and it should work, and sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it doesn't. Matt, what I would say, sometimes, again, I said earlier, software's not perfect. I'll bet you just got a glitch in your tenant. So do you have a unified contract? And Justin Roan's on the line, he might know. Do you have what's called a TAM, or they used to be called TAMs, they're called a CSAM, Customer Success Account Manager?
Okay. I do not know,
Yeah. So
but I can
if
find out.
you,
Which agency? Which agency do you
Capital
work for?
Area Council of Governments.
Capcog?
Yes.
Okay. You guys probably don't, but I can find out. That's a little bit outside of my realm, but that actually falls more to the locals, Michael. But let me find out whether y'all do or not.
okay, cool.
Be awesome.
Matt, if you don't mind, just maybe popping your email address into the chat, then we'll check. So the reason I asked if you have a TAM or a C, they used to be called TAMs. So some people still call them TAMs because they were called that for like 30 years. Last year we started calling them CSAMs, Customer Success Account Managers. Well, the CSAMs, they have the ability of taking a trouble ticket or this doesn't work ticket. And so what you would do is they would take the information and they could submit that on your behalf. And then they also have a group of people called CEs. They used to be called PFEs. And the CEs are customer engineers, and they're specialists in a given area, and they can help you troubleshoot things like this. And then if you open up a trouble ticket, then what we'll do is Microsoft Engineering will look at your tenant, and maybe there's just some little glitch in your tenant, and we fix it, and we're like, try now. And then you're like,
Cool.
oh, yeah, now it works. Or no, it still doesn't work. So there we go. So yeah, great question, Matt. I'm sorry I can't help you. That should work. And the stuff that you're seeing, whenever you see something that's totally glitchy, like you've done the right thing. I tried it from 3 different places. I stood on my head. I tried it on a Tuesday, and it still doesn't work. It's probably a glitch in the matrix,
Cool. No, this was super helpful. Guidance is helpful, and I really appreciate everything.
Yeah, and if anybody else has come across that, let's see, does Glenn, this would make a post on the post tab. Oh yeah, okay, Glenn's talking about the forums. Yeah. So yeah, thanks, Matt. Great question. Anything else? Any other questions you have? All right, what else we got out there? Those are a couple of good announcements and good questions.
Hi, Michael. My name's Carrie Daniele. I work at TABC.
Hey.
You joined Shelly and I on a call a couple weeks ago, and I really appreciate your assistance.
Yeah.
And then you led us to, or showed us or told us about Leap, which we engaged that service.
Mhm.
And I'm kind of opening this question for everybody in this group, or maybe you can point us in the right direction. So planning on hosting a live event in August, and then one every month thereafter through July 2022. Our first event in August, we're expecting upwards of 10,000 attendees, and we do want a live Q&A. And yesterday we held a TABC talk. So it's a very informal event, but there were 70 attendees and about that many questions. And so we were really blown away. And now we've kind of went, oh no, what do we do?
Yeah.
So I'm hoping I can get some feedback from maybe other folks that have had such large events, or your recommendation on the best way to try to moderate questions and controlling an audience that large to field questions.
Yeah. So the first thing I would say, Carrie, is like 11,000 people live Q&A or moderated Q&A. Woo. I know that when we have this meeting and we've got over 100 people, sometimes the chat really gets cranking, and Greg and Billy and people would like jump right in and help. But 11,000 people, that's a ton. So the first thing I would say is we had this big initiative called the Teams Broadcast Hub, helping organizations worldwide implement Company Communicator. We had calls that were like Eastern Hemisphere of the world and then Western Hemisphere of the world. And there was never more than about 250 people in the calls, but the chat was, like bonkers. It was going so fast. One of the things that you can do to help yourself and really prepare for that scale is to already have a really good FAQ document. And maybe if you can sort of, when you're doing your user acceptance testing, make sure that you document really well the things that that your people in your UAT where they had questions, or where you know that there's sort of a sticky part, or you've made some major change to the way that your customers are going to interact with TABC, and just have at the ready the answers to those questions, and then a link to that specific spot in the document, or if you have different web pages that are public facing web pages, so that it's really easy and really quick to point people to an FAQ document. And then also, or just say, that's in the FAQ, that's in the FAQ. So, again, best practice, have all your stuff already ready, have your key links ready, and be able to, as your moderators are working on the chat, have them be able to post those things in real quick. In a live event with a moderated chat, you have several options when someone posts a question. You can answer the question privately, which means you just answer it to that one person. You can ignore or you can discard their question, like if it's something inappropriate or something you just want to get it out of the queue, or you can promote it to the public queue, which means everybody's going to see their question, and you can answer their question in the public forum so that everybody sees it. That's the other thing. So, about the 80-20 rule, 80% of the people are going to have a question on the same 20% of the questions. And so just be ready for those and make sure you post those. So let me stop there. That's kind of my best practices. And what Carrie said with the LEAP team, that stands for the Live Event Assistance Program. And hey, Greg Stevens, do you mind looking up the Live Event Assistance Program and putting the URL into the chat? This is a program. It was in trial or in beta when COVID first hit, and I think Andra's on here with the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department. We engaged a LEAP person early on, but then their team they just jumped right into live events. But it's still a free program, and by free I mean it's included with your subscription, and it's someone who's an expert in live events, and they will help you plan for your live event. And I think they'll even do day of, sort of hold your hand during the event. So yeah, thanks, Greg. So that's what the LEAP program is, because live events are tricky. They just take some practice, and Andra and her team at Texas Parks and Wildlife really leaned in and figured it all out. So let me open it up. And Andra, I know you didn't have massive numbers of people in there, but what did you guys do at TPWD with regard to the moderated Q&A?
Well, for our commission meetings, we didn't use it because people can't talk unsolicited during the meetings anyway. But we did quite a few town hall meetings over the past year through the live events channel, and they used the moderated Q&A in that. We had nowhere near the number of people that you're talking about, though.
Yeah.
I mean, not even close. But we found out that if you had a handful of people that their only job was to watch the chat and to answer questions, well, sorry, not chat, the Q&A, and answer questions, and they had a lot of that stuff already set up too, where they could point people to the right thing. They didn't publish every question, they kind of grouped them rather than answering every single question individually. And then they didn't always leave it on. Like when Carter came on and was doing his welcome message, they turned it off. They didn't want people asking questions. They wanted them listening to what he had to say. So they actually built in spaces where they asked for questions and opened it and closed it. So they had a little more control over it that way. But I don't know how effective that would be for such a large meeting. But we just had folks that were designated, okay, you're going to be in charge of this type of question and you answer all those. And you're going to be in charge of this type of question and you answer all those. And that's kind of how they divided it up.
Does that help, Carrie?
My name is Shelley, and I work with
hey, Shelley.
together on this. And as just kind of a follow-up, how many moderators would you think? And I know Andra was talking about how many moderators did you have for your group?
Gosh, our agency is 3,500 people, and we had maybe 1,500 on the town hall, and we had maybe 4 because they were looking at different subject matters and they were trying to keep people more focused, just on a small chunk.
Okay.
I don't know how they decided that that's how they were going to do it. I wasn't part of that. I just saw it as it played out because I was running the show. But yeah, it seemed to work okay for them. But they did, like Michael said, they had a lot of stuff that was canned responses. You know, that they were just pointing people at, go look here, click here, here's the answer to this. We've answered that one 14 times. We're not going to answer it again, you know, that kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah, and I like your suggestion because originally I was like, no, we want to have like the Q&A up the whole time so that they can submit them at any time. But you bring up a good point, like, you know, if most times people have come with already what they want to say in their mind, and if they just pay attention to what we're going to present them, then that might clear up a lot of questions that they have.
They also asked for questions ahead of time. They set up a form and sent the link out to the agency so that they tried to collect as many questions as they could before the meeting started. And I think maybe that's what they used to decide the groupings and the moderators, was the way that those questions were leaning. They figured that most of what came up during the meeting was probably going to mimic what they were hearing beforehand.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. And one possibility also, Carrie, and I know you already have these meetings scheduled. Maybe you have a smaller meeting for that first one. That's a big meeting. So if there was an option to have only 1,000 people, like an early beta testers or something, just to see what the questions are. I think Andra's point about kind of knowing what you're going to get yourself into and knowing what you need to have ready would be super helpful. And don't wait for the Q&A. Like, have that in your slides. So, you know, these are things that are common questions. So we're going to train on that. If you have additional questions, then put it in the chat. And then also, here's the link to the QA. And maybe once every 5 minutes, you drop the link to your frequently asked questions documentation into the chat. Because if once it scrolls off the screen, if someone didn't see it, then they will not usually scroll up to look and see if somebody already answered that.
Okay, yeah, I think this is all great feedback and I really appreciate it. We do have FAQs posted to our public website, so we're directing traffic there. But I think it was a comment about sending out a form ahead of time is a great suggestion.
Yeah, and I have a great announcement for you, Carrie. I just literally got this from Grant Oliasani a couple of hours ago. Check it out. Microsoft Forms file upload for government has been released.
No way.
Well, it says, when will this happen? We will begin rolling this out. Oh, I'm sorry, mid-June, and expect to complete rollout late June. So you should see this in the next week or two. So Carrie and I were working on this. Is kind of a cool kind of use case. So Carrie and I were working on. She came to us and said, "Hey, I want to use Microsoft Forms to capture, as we're going through user acceptance testing on a new application, I want to capture bugs." And they had designed this really nice form that you would capture all the different fields that you needed in order to supply that to the vendor who is writing the application. What they also wanted to do is have the ability to upload a screen capture with the bug report. And in GCC, Forms doesn't have a file upload capability yet, but in about 2 weeks it will. And so when you create a form, you just, one of the options where I was saying, you know, you can do a text box or, you know, a ranking scale. One of them is a file upload, and you literally just plunk that into your form. And when someone uploads the file, it puts it, actually, now that I'm thinking about that, I think it puts it in the SharePoint library. I just stumped myself for that. Let me see if it says where it goes. Files can be accessed on either SharePoint or OneDrive for Business, depending on the form type. Group forms are stored in SharePoint, while personal forms are stored in OneDrive for Business. Okay, there we go. So if you are creating a form, I think you have the option to pick. If I go back to that demo tenant that we had up earlier, and we went here to forms, then I can create a new form or a new quiz. And if I go to group forms, then this is what I created, that no roads. And then if I go to my forms and I create a new form, this would be an individual form versus creating a form as part of a a group. A group meaning the infrastructure that is the back end to Teams. So a group is a SharePoint libraries and all those kinds of things. So yeah, so if you're needing to capture content, then you now have the ability to capture an uploaded document as well. Okay, cool. Any other advice for Carrie? Maybe not necessarily something that you've done on Teams, but maybe something if someone's run like really large WebExes or something in the past, how they might have handled that many questions, that many people being in a meeting.
Hi, Michael. This is Chris Button, TWC.
Hey, Chris.
Just like you said, I'll just reiterate as much preparation in advance would be helpful, and maybe even a dry run with your folks that are going to help you organize the activity. That's very useful, and just kind of understanding the handoffs. And if you're going to have any breakout rooms, how you want to set those up beforehand would be very effective.
Yeah.
Thank you. And just to speak on that, the LEAP team and the individual that's going to help us, it's awesome because they will support us on dry runs and then be there during the actual event. So we're definitely going to accept the help.
Yeah. Awesome.
I
just noticed. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
This is
I was
Greg
just going to say real quick. There's Amy Copes with HHSC. She said, I set up a flow to have the documents automatically linked in SharePoint list and saved in the SharePoint doc library. So that's a great idea. So again, Billy Stevenson has shared how to use Flow and Power Automate. Power Automate became, we call it Power Automate now, and you create flows with Power Automate. But the product used to be called Flow. And so you can, when someone fills out a form, you can have the on-form submission event do all kinds of cool stuff. And as she said, she put it so that the document automatically linked in a SharePoint list and saved in the SharePoint doc library. So cool, Amy, great example. So sorry, Greg, what you got?
Oh yeah, I was just going to say, many of you might already know me. I'm the customer success training manager for the Austin area. So I run a lot of trainings through live events, and just some best practices from my team that we would share certainly would be, one is as easy as, paying attention to who's answering the questions and making sure that once you kind of start typing to answer a question, you'll notice that your name pops up, similar in the chat window where it says Michael Kennedy is typing. You'll see that when you're answering the question. And so if I see that Michael Kennedy is typing to answer a question, I'm just going to move on to the next one. And so I know that's something that can get overlooked really easily, especially if some of you are the chicken peck type of typers and you're looking at your keyboard and not your screen the whole time. But that's one thing that can certainly be diligent in helping you answer and get on to the next one a little bit quicker when you have a lot coming in. And then to the point of the questions that are coming in frequently, and you talk about moderating by turning the Q&A section on or off. What my team typically does is we'll make an announcement towards the end of the training, letting everyone know maybe 2 minutes towards the end of the training that we're going to turn the Q&A off. But if they have a question in there, we're still going to have someone stick around and answer them. So if that's something you might be interested in, having a moderator stick around even after the training is over, that person doesn't have to leave that training window up. So if they close out and they want to come back an hour or 2 hours later, 6 months later, as long as you've got that recording enabled, they can come back and see whatever answer that might be posted to their question, as long as that recording is enabled for that live event.
Yeah, cool. Thank you, Greg. Yeah, and as Andra said earlier, the other thing is expect that some stuff will go wrong. Just roll with it. So yeah, those are really good words.
I really appreciate the feedback. Thank you all.
You're welcome, Carrie. Thanks for jumping on. Chris, got your hand up. That may have been from earlier.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Just kind of wanted to see if you had an update. Are we still on track for the whiteboards this summer?
Man, how did I know you were going to ask that? I have not. Chris has been hammering on me about whiteboard in a very nice and polite way. I don't mean that in a bad way. For what, about 6 months now, Chris? Like, when is it? Are you still on track? Let me look. The answer is yes, but I want to. I'm going to check my handy dandy document here. Let's see. Gosh, I got too many. Yeah, I only have a few tabs open, right? Okay, where's my PowerPoint? Here we go. All right. Okay, let's do a Control F. Man, I hope I don't get a bad surprise and all of a sudden it's like November. Chris is going to jump through the chat here and choke me.
No, it's a lot of stuff being rolled out, so we're very excited.
All
also
right.
want to see where we're on approvals.
Yeah.
Generating a lot of buzz.
Pending rollout. Okay, we're still on track, Chris, so far. So Whiteboard for web and Teams meetings will become available for your GCC tenant. New Whiteboard experience requires OneDrive for Business, because the whole delay, this ridiculously long delay, is that previously the Whiteboard content wasn't stored in a way that we felt was secure enough for our government community cloud customers. Because when you're in GCC, you can be an agency with guns and badges, and you require CJIS, Criminal Justice Information System protection for your files. So we rewrote Whiteboard so that the backend repository would either be OneDrive or SharePoint. And so and so it says, if your organization does not have OneDrive for Business, please verify the Whiteboard is disabled. So your end users can create and collaborate on whiteboards in the web application and in Teams meetings. It will begin a gradual rollout in GCC. And so the data is stored in OneDrive for Business, and Whiteboard is on by default, but can be disabled by using the SharePoint admin PowerShell commandlets. So it'll start rolling out mid-June, and then it will roll out through mid-July. Now, I will say this about Whiteboard. So we have Whiteboard. We're in a commercial tenant. Microsoft is. So we have Whiteboard. And there's two flavors of Whiteboard, two kind of primary flavors. There is this Whiteboard for web and Teams. And then there is the Whiteboard app that is the Microsoft Whiteboard app that you can download from the Microsoft Store, or your IT organization can download that and push it out so that you have that on your machine. The reason I want to bring this up is that I was in a session actually working with one of our partners, Accenture and Avanade, and they were using a Whiteboard alternative. It's the one that TDLR uses, and I just blanked on it. If anybody from TDLR is on and doesn't mind coming off mute and sharing which one.
Mural.
What was it? Mural. Yeah, so they were using Mural. It was really cool the way that they were using it to sort of go through the meeting, and they had all their content in a mural, which is like Whiteboard. It's more feature rich than Whiteboard. So what I did is I was like, well, that was cool. I'm going to go ahead and create a Whiteboard, and I'm going to put all this content in it. And I started to use, well, actually I went out to YouTube and I watched some videos on YouTube about how to use Whiteboard. And it talked about the Whiteboard that's part of Teams and the Whiteboard on the web. And then it talked about the Whiteboard app. And what I found is that the Whiteboard for Teams and web is actually pretty low on features compared to this Microsoft Whiteboard app. And so some of the things that were particularly missing were the ability to do, like, create a list, follow-up list, to use templates. Now these are in preview, but that just means that it's kind of in beta. The ability to import a PDF, import a Word doc, a PowerPoint. And so in preparing for some conversations around hybrid work, I was pulling down all these white papers and doing all this reading, and I was trying to organize this content into a whiteboard. And what I'm doing is I'm zooming out. And so the cool thing about Whiteboard is I have all of this content on a whiteboard. and you can, even though these are like little screen grabs and it looks really tiny, you can zoom in, and this is actually a vector graphic. And so vector graphics scale in and out really well. And so it's really clear when you're up close, and it stays pretty darn clear even when you get far away. So Chris, as much as I know we've been waiting on whiteboard to come for Teams, and the ability to have a whiteboard right during a Teams meeting is really cool. It's very good. But you could actually just share your screen. So you could share your screen, and I could share the content that's on a whiteboard like this. What isn't available when I'm doing it like this is y'all are not able to write on the whiteboard or type on the whiteboard or be interactive. Now, I can invite other people to this whiteboard. And so like Justin's in the meeting here. And so let me see if this is going to work. There we go, Justin Rohn. There he is. And so there's no way I'm giving Justin edit permission. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, edit, Justin, don't edit this. Okay, this is something I've been working on. So if I invite Justin to this, then he will have access to this whiteboard, and I made it so that he could edit this. The whiteboard is a great place to gather content, share content. You can kind of use it to lead through a meeting. When you use it in a Teams meeting and it's part of a meeting, then you can actually have, sorry, let me bring that back up. You can actually have multiple people typing or writing on the whiteboard, or if you add little Post-it notes, then you could do something where, let me just click to put a Post-it on there. Oh, I was doing it, but I didn't realize I was doing it, and I was just putting them on the screen here. So let me, so these are like these little Post-it notes. And so let's just say you're just doing a brainstorming session, then someone could put a Post-it note here and just say, you know, idea 1, and someone else is typing over here and they say idea 2. And people can be doing this all at the same time, and they can be moving these things around interactively. And so it's pretty powerful. And, you know, just to differentiate, I say, oh, I want mine to be this color. So whiteboard is going to have all these capabilities. Now, the reason that TDLR chose Mural, I was talking to Simon Sked about this because he didn't want to wait because Randy, who works for TDLR, does these sort of innovation sessions, and they didn't want to wait on whiteboard to come out, which was good because it took forever. But they use Mural because it has all of these templates and some like really cool capabilities, and you get to the where the data is stored, where the murals are stored, was a secure location. And so they had kind of evaluated, and I'm paraphrasing, so you know, please don't take this as the gospel. These are just a couple of things that he had said to me in passing, but they had just evaluated Mural and saw that Mural was just a more feature-rich option. Now, it's not included with your subscription. There's a cost in it. It's not cheap, but it's really good. So that's a very short question with a very long answer, Chris. The other thing you asked about was approval.
Yes. And thank you for your answer with whiteboard. Very well done.
All right, good. Approvals in Microsoft Teams GCC, pending rollout mid-June. So approvals in Microsoft Teams is a way to streamline requests and processes with a team or partners. Users will be able to create new approvals, pending approvals, and see previous ones in place. If you have an F3 license, so this is a Frontline Worker 3 license, which I don't think many of you have. If any of you have, then or above, you're able to take advantage of that. So y'all have either E3 or G3 or E5 or G5, so you should be good. And it's a native Teams application so you can create, manage, and share approvals from a hub for teamwork. So approvals is going to natively integrate, and approvals are triggered directly with Power Automate infrastructure. But they don't require a flow with an approvals action. There's if you download this, then here's an overview of approvals in Microsoft Teams and what are approvals. So there's additional content here. Now, the other thing that is available today, if you had a need that you really wanted to move forward more quickly, is what's called an app template. An app template is there's kind of a feature that's missing in Teams that someone has requested, and what we did is we would write a capability, and it's called an app template, and you can upload it into Teams as a custom app. And so Company Communicator is one of those apps. And there is also I think it's called a Teams request, or request to team is one of the it is one of the app templates. And so if you had a need where you wanted the ability to have someone request a team and then submit some metadata and then kick off a workflow, that is an app template that's available today. There's a whole list of these app templates, and I'll drop the link to the app templates here. There's some really great capabilities. Now, a couple things to note about app templates. They are written by Microsoft and Microsoft engineers. They are released into an open source repository called GitHub. So if you're a developer, you're probably real familiar with GitHub. Microsoft bought GitHub sometime in the last year or two. And so this means that even though this was written by Microsoft, it's not like Word or Excel or PowerPoint or Exchange or other Microsoft applications that are supported Microsoft applications. App templates are supported by the community. And what that means is you can submit an issue like this one right here, this app request. 90 people have submitted issues, and the community will support each other in answering those different issues. And so again, you don't call your Microsoft person and say, hey, I'm having a problem with an app template. You go to the community with that. The other kind of good thing about that is that you own the code. So we give you the code, and you can make changes to it and make it more cool, make it more specific to your agency or whatever you need to do. And so again, that is called an app template. And there's a lot of things that are not in Teams that we have written as an app template that you can get for free.
Mike,
Very well done.
this is those templates, would they require dynamic subscription though? Because we tried to do this when I was at Parks, but it needed some, I believe it was called CSM or something, some premium stuff that was part of the dynamic subscription. Would these templates require that as well?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jose. Some app templates are just kind of self-contained. So it might be something like an example is Company Communicator. Or let me show you this. This is the one I was going to show earlier. This Champions app template gives you the ability to track your champions. If you have a group of early adopters and champions who help your people with your organization with Office 365, we have this new app template called the Champion Management Platform. And this is the kind of the admin console. Now, the back end of this, Jose, is a SharePoint list. And so it's Teams, and there's an app that runs inside of Teams. This is the management portion of the app, and then there's also the sort of end user portion of the app. And but the back end is it's just a SharePoint list. And so because of that, there's no additional licenses that are required. But there are app templates like Company Communicator, where it leverages a bot and a message queuing service and some other Azure services that require Azure for that app template to work. And so in that case, you're going to have with the Company Communicator, it's about $85 a month in Azure spend for Company Communicator to work. This one, there's no cost. Some of them do require access to like external sources of information. And so like the Q&A bot, or it can be called the Adopt bot or the Q&A bot. And we have one called the Adoption Hub. And these use a bot framework. And oftentimes that bot framework may go to a database or an external source of information that is going to make that bot have more feature-rich information. When you cross that threshold of the data is not living inside of Office 365, like it's a SharePoint list or in a OneDrive, or it's not just right there inside of Teams. there's an additional license for that. And I think that's what you ran into, Jose.
Okay, thank you for that information. I do have a couple of questions about Whiteboard. You mentioned that it's available on the store, but and also of course the web app. But the desktop app, is there going to be? I think you mentioned there's going to be a way to install that because I haven't been able to find, even though we don't have it available on the GCC yet. I figured there would be an installation package out there somewhere, and I haven't been able to find that.
Yeah, what I did, the way that I got to it is I brought up the in Windows 10. I just typed store, and it's actually not called. Yeah, it's called the Microsoft Store. Here we go, and I'll open this and I'll bring it over into the window here. Now, this could be turned off in your tenant, so you may not have access to the Microsoft Store. So here's the Microsoft Store.
Yeah,
There's
and
all
that's our case. That's what I was asking if there was a way to do it through desktop installation.
What you might be able to do, and if anybody knows, feel free to come off mute. So here's this Microsoft Whiteboard app. Now it says owned because I've already downloaded it. There are things that are for sale on there, like video games and stuff like that, and movies. And so what you might be able to do is pull the executable down and then make that like an MSI and push it out using config. Your config manager, System Center Configuration Manager, or some other software deployment mechanism. Justin, do you happen to know about deploying Whiteboard, or Greg Stevens, or anybody?
I don't think I do, Michael. We would probably have to delve a little bit into our fast track team for that.
Yeah. Anybody else on the line happen to know? Has anybody else deployed the Microsoft Whiteboard Windows 10 app? Yeah, so Jose, if you want to send an email to Justin and I, then we can look into that and connect you with the fast track team.
Okay,
no,
that's okay. I just wanted to be prepared. I know, like you mentioned, our agency is using Mural right now. So, but I wanted to be preparing because I have not found. I know we had the store disabled in our tenant, so I just wanted to find a way to even deploy through Case or through Intune, but I haven't found that. So that's okay. Well, I'll get to you guys when we get there, when we get to the bridge. Okay, perfect. All right, and I just put the link to the Teams app templates page in the chat. Let's see, John Van Horn's got a question in the chat. Is there any plan by Microsoft to add a capability for a meeting chat to have moderators or allow participants to send chats privately in the meeting session to the meeting coordinator? So those are capabilities, John, in live events, so the moderated chat. We have added the ability to have meetings up to, it went from 300, well, it went from 100 people to like 150, and then 300 people in a Teams meeting, and now up to 1,000. So when you go beyond 1,000 people, so 1,001 all the way up to 10,000, then those participants are in a listen only or a view only mode. And so they don't have the chat. They don't have the ability to come off mute. They literally, it's almost like they're watching like a streaming, streaming on YouTube Live or Facebook Live or some kind of like streaming service. However, in the somewhat distant future, so it is in the last time I heard was the fall, and let me look and see if it's in our PowerPoint deck here. We are going to be introducing a moderated chat capability for Teams meetings overflow. So the capability to have up to 10,000 people in a meeting is called overflow. And let's see, I'm trying to bring up the find here. And so moderated. And okay, let's look for, I know there's going to be a whole lot of chat, but that is a feature that we're going to be having where you can have a moderated chat in a meeting, but I had heard that it's gonna be a little while before that comes out, and so I think I'd heard November. Please don't hold me to that. It's just sort of something that's noodling around in the back of my head, but it's coming. But it would be more like what you experience in a live event,
where you have a moderated chat. And in the case where you said, can you kind of just send a message to the moderators, any message that you post into a live event chat or in this moderated chat that'll be coming to Teams, only go to the moderators, and then they choose whether that gets posted to the public view or not. John, does that answer your question? Kind of. All right, we'll say yes on that. Hopefully that got you what you need. And as we get closer, then I'll find out more about that. Yeah, Roxy, you got your hand up?
Thank you. I just wanted to ask if there is a way to create a transcript from the chat.
Now you're throwing me softballs.
I know we've got. Sorry?
I'm just kidding. I said, now you're throwing me a softball. There is a thing called transcription. And so transcription is, it takes what's being said in a meeting. It also has what is called speaker attribution. We've talked about this in the past, where if you turn on live captions, then when live captions get turned on, it actually, when you'll see this on my screen, because I'm doing the screen share, it will have, where it says Michael K, and it has what I said, and it converts the speech to text. So we've had transcription in the past, but then speaker attribution is where it actually adds my name ahead of it. And if you are in a Teams room, there is a set of certified speakers where you can have up to 10 people in a meeting room, and it will recognize the people's voices and attribute what they say in the meeting to, and it puts their name next to it. And so the meeting can only contain up to 30 people that are not in the Teams room and 10 people in the Teams room in order for speaker attribution transcripts to work. And again, you have to have a speaker, because the speaker has multiple microphones, and then Teams has the ability to do like a voice fingerprint kind of, so that it knows when you're speaking what you sound like. And then there's an ability for the meeting owner to go in and fix the transcript. You can do it on the fly. It'll say speaker X. And so you can right click on that, from what I understand, in the transcript, and you can say, oh no, that was Roxy. And then it kind of trains it to recognize your voice better. And you can also go in, and wherever it says like speaker X, say, oh, that's always Roxy. And so you can fix the whole transcript. That's while you're doing the meeting. Now, after the meeting, there is a capability called and I don't have it because our legal group turned it off, but it is the meeting, it's not the attendance report. Anybody, Justin, do you happen to remember what I'm talking about? Or Greg Stevens? It's basically after the meeting, you can pull down a report. And in the new capability, we released a version 1 of that months ago, and it kind of stunk. You had to do it during the meeting, and it was very limited, the information it included. The new attendance report, I think is what it's called, or I'll look it up. It has the transcript in there, and then you have the ability to go in and edit it for the speaker attribution. Again, as long as it's not more than 10 people in the room and 30 people remotely, then it'll do that speaker attribution. If you have more than a total of 40 people in the meeting, then it will do the transcription, but it doesn't do the speaker attribution. It's just it's like too much for the machines to figure out. But you'll have a transcript after the meeting that you can download.
Report.
What was it? The
engagement report.
Thank you. Awesome.
Chat.
Do you guys already have that, Chris?
I said it's in the chat.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
But let me to answer your question.
Yeah.
So based on that report, that's something that each agency and their legal team is going to decide if that should be or not. So that might be restricted, Roxy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's sometimes you don't want a record of everything that everybody said in a meeting, and And so, like Chris said, it may be turned off. Our legal team turned it off for us, so which was really surprising and kind of frustrating. And so they did it for privacy. We really do, take y'all's privacy very seriously. And so what they did not want is for us to be able to download an attendance report and then use that for marketing purposes or use that for other purposes. And so, because it does have like your username, not like your username and password kind of username, but like who joined the meeting, and they just kind of felt like that was too much information. The other thing is, if you record a meeting and you go into Microsoft Stream, then you have the ability to have the transcript. You can turn on captioning, and you can actually do the captioning. You say what language the meeting was in, and then it will put the captioning in. And you can download that caption file and you can fix it and upload it back to the video. And so if you keep that video on stream, it'll have a transcript or captioning. And you can, like I said, you can download that caption file. So that's another place if you have a recorded meeting to get to the transcript. Does that answer your question, Roxy?
Yes, Chris's answer also helped. Thank you both.
Yeah, you're welcome. Trey.
You just answered my question. So how do I find the recording of this meeting today so that I can share this with a couple of folks?
Yeah, unfortunately, you because you're in a different tenant, you won't have access to the recording of the meeting because it gets recorded into Microsoft Stream, and Stream is only designed for it's like YouTube for the enterprise. That said, I take all of the Texas Teams community meetings and I download the video and I upload them to our YouTube channel. And so I'm going to type into the chat.
Yeah, this has been a great meeting for me. It's answered several questions that have been, maybe these weren't features that were available before, but I'm glad to hear they are now. So there are a couple folks I've already sent chats to on the side, and they're like, no, I didn't know that. So I need to follow up and let folks know where to find this information.
Excellent. Well, I just posted into the chat the link to our Texas Teams resources YouTube playlist, and all of the previous meetings are in there. And I try to name the meeting. It'll say like Texas Teams Community June like open discussion, or like what I covered last month was hybrid work. And so I'll try to put in the name of the video, like a couple of keywords for what was contained during that session, so it's easier to find the one you need. But that's yeah, you can go to the YouTube channel. Yeah, and almost nobody goes to the YouTube channel. I can't believe y'all don't just watch these things for fun, but
Times 2 speed. That's how I get through those.
Exactly. Yeah, thank God for times 2 speed. Oh, and the YouTube does have auto captioning. It's not 100%. It's about as good as our auto captioning, and so it does have. So for people who have either visual challenges or hearing challenges, then it works with screen reader or the devices, and then it also has the captioning. So it's a little bit easier. Like I wear hearing aids, and so it helps me when I look at the captioning. Okay. Thank you, Trey. And your light looks great.
Thank you.
Yeah. I got I had this big, my wife used to own an event management company. And so she had one of those things, like you go to a party and they have the light that shines on you. So if you got a group of people, so she has this thing, it's way too big for what you would use at your desk. It's like this big around, it's a circle. You can probably see it reflected in my glasses. I use that as a light. But we got for my wife, because she does a lot of meetings, Teams meetings and Zoom meetings. Yeah, I said it. And so it's this little, I know. It's a little thing about the size of your cell phone, and it's an LED light, and I got it on Amazon, and it's really cool because you can change the light color as well as the light brightness. And so, and then it has a suction cup, so it sticks to the back of your laptop or the back of your monitor, or you can stick it, it also has a little hole in it, so you can put it on either like a selfie stick, or you can put it on a tripod. And it does a great job really giving you excellent light of different tones. Like, different people's skin tones look better under different lights. And so if you're having problems where your work environment, it just doesn't have great light, then get one of those. It was not free. It was like $69. But it works really well, and you can power it off your USB port. It only lasts for about an hour and a half at pretty good brightness on the battery that it has internally. But it's not bad. All right. Oh, wow. I just realized it's already 4:30. It's 4:33. Time flies when you're having fun. Does anybody have another question? We can answer one more question, and then I apologize. I'm already over time. Yeah, Patrick.
And one quick, very short follow-up question on the engagement report. Where would you find that if it is enabled by the tenant?
Yeah, you would go under the ellipse right here, the 3 dots, more actions, and you would see engagement report. Now, the engagement report is only available to the owner of the meeting, and I think maybe if you invited people as presenters, but it's not available to everybody. Which you wouldn't want anybody to be able to download your engagement report. And it has who attended, when they came, when they left, the transcript, the Q&A, and a couple of other assets. It's really the new engagement report is quite nice.
That's very helpful because we have a lot of. I'm sorry, I don't know if I've ever spoken in the meeting before. I work with the Texas A&M Transportation Institute, and we do a lot of federal contracts that require certain accessibility options, such as transcripting, chat records, things like that, to go back and review and correct statements, and that's something in attendance reports, and so that kind of rolls it all into one thing for our users. That would be very helpful.
Yeah, it's super helpful. Another thing that's coming, and just full disclosure, this is already available in other platforms, is that when you speak, it can be translated into different languages. That's going to be coming. I think it's going to be coming in the fall. We have partners that you can integrate into Teams that offer transcription services, as well as the American Sign Language services. Excuse me. And so one of my customers does a lot of cross-border work, one of the agencies, and they really they're the people that they talk to. This happens to be in Mexico. A lot of them don't have good English skills. Some of the people that are in these meetings, and so one of the members of the agency actually translates, but to the meeting takes twice as long, or you get half the amount done because every conversation has to be translated by a human. So coming in the future, when you speak, the other people will be able to say, I want it translated into Spanish. So not only will it go speech to text, but it'll go speech to text and then translate on the fly. Again, it's not in the Microsoft platform today. It is available in other platforms. And so if you've got a really hard need to do translation as you go, then maybe you can use something else for a few months. Okay, well, that time flew by. Great questions. Thanks to everybody for being here. I hope this was helpful. The recording will be posted to our YouTube channel probably by end of day tomorrow. And then I will send out the very few slides that we had. And I'll send that out with an email to everybody. And again, thanks for joining. Really appreciate all of y'all. Have a great evening.
Thank you, you too.
Really great presentation. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And thank you to whoever got me on this meeting. This was my first time.
Me too.
Yeah, welcome. Make sure you go out and you put yourself on the interest list, Trey, so that I'll add you so that you get all the meetings in the future.
Well, I'm a short timer.
Oh, come on now.
The end of the month, I'll be leaving. But it's great to see this has happened for Teams. So I'm happy for
Glad
the rest
you were here.
of the conversation.
All right.
Bye,
Bye,
everybody.